Hello, and welcome to the Passion on Purpose Leaders on Center Stage podcast. I am Steph, and I'm the owner and creative director at VIM. VIM's mission is to showcase the enthusiasm and passion of business leaders nationwide. I cannot wait to have you listen to the show, and stick around. At the end, we talk a little bit about how you can be my next guest. My guest today, she is from California, and it is showing because I already feel like the sunshine energy is all around me off air. We've had a phenomenal start to this day. That is for sure. And I'm just so excited to have our next guest, Lisa Caprelli. She is a 19 times author and Latina entrepreneur. And she is going to be joining us on the Passion on Purpose podcast. I'm so excited to have you on the show, Lisa. Thank you again for coming.
I'm so grateful to be here, Steph. Thank you.
Yes, I love you. For those of you listening, Lisa was showing several of her books. And then those of you who are watching on YouTube, if you didn't know, we post all of our episodes on YouTube too. So if you want to see us in the flesh, well, as much as you can virtually, go over to YouTube and give us a watch. So I'm so excited. Let's dive on in as we have been. And I'm just going to go ahead and just start it off with, what is your why?
Excellent question. In my book, Skip a Step, one of the last things asked of me was, what is your why to others? And F. Scott Fitzgerald said, I hope you live a life you're proud of. I hope you live a life that's true. And if you're not, I hope you have the courage to start over again. And to that, I add, I hope you have the courage, the strength, the walk with God, the community, the collaborative, the heart, the love, the emotions and feelings and positive empathy that we need today, especially in this changing world that we are in, and that we all can be a source of inspiration, and that at any given time we have the ability to change. And love is a decision. And so for my why has been to that I have changed my life, and talk about in a journey and challenge and struggle that I've had, as many have, that we can identify, and we relate to people's pain. We can relate to someone's, story, and to be your authentic self. And so today I'm so grateful that I get to do that, knowing that I'm still a work in progress, as we all are. And I believe in being a lifelong learner and a lifelong giver, helping other people.
I love that. And how has that why fueled, right? I know you have several things you do, right? As an author, an entrepreneur. So how have you fueled that why through the services you offer, the books that you write? Like, what does that look like?
I, as a child, I don't think I knew I would do any of this. Like, I grew up really shy and really introverted. Like, when I go into schools and speak to kids of all ages, really, I say, think of the quietest, shyest kid in the classroom. That was me. So and people they don't know that, because they see you now and in what you're showing up for now, right? Mm-hmm. But I like to hit home on that, because there's many kids that are young, that are shy, introverted. They don't know what they're going to be when they grow up. Maybe they come from a hard home. They come from a home that's hard. That maybe there's not enough communication. We hear about trauma and brokenness, mental health awareness. We know these are things you and I, Steph, didn't talk about growing up, right?
Right.
And so I came from a family. My mother had 5 children, a single mom, and she was left to raise us and figure it out. Like, there's no manual for that. And my grandmother had just a 3rd grade education. Her mom died when she was in 3rd grade, because she had to raise her family. So what we want to hear is the triumph, and like, how did you overcome that? How did he overcome that? Like, in my book, Skip a Step, no one just rose to the top. Everything was great. They made a lot of money. Everything was balanced in their life. Life was great. Said no one ever.
Yeah. So was that the inspiration for the name of the book, Skip a Step? Is it kind of like the opposite of, you don't get to skip a step? And let me tell you,
if I could have skipped steps and have the collective wisdom, because I didn't grow up knowing what the word entrepreneur meant.
Mm.
I did, like, had there been someone in my family, I could have skipped some steps. So I interviewed different people in this book. Michael Gerber, who was 80 at the time, who's written many books about business, and his book series is called The E-Myth Business. I interviewed Mitch Free, who had different businesses in his life. He created a manufacturing business, partner with Jeff Bezos, who bought it. Can you imagine that?
Yeah, I
Uh,
know.
I mean, I interviewed so many great people on this book. And along the way, it took me 2.5 years to get it done. And I'm one of those people that I have to finish my projects. I don't like to have unchecked things, even though there's always an inbox and an outbox for us all. And when Skip a Step went live, by this time, I had all this collective wisdom. I was skipping steps with their information they were giving me, along with going back into my childhood. Go back into your childhood. Can you find one person that helped you along the way? Who was one person that believed in you? Hey, maybe you believed in others. And so in 2018, I had already worked with so many CEOs, helped people from their vision concept on a napkin to thriving. Like Toyota was a client of mine, and redoing their website, and you can relate to this in branding and being modern and innovative and enter social media, all this change around us. And so people are looking for me, like, how do I adapt to this? How can you help me? And I've always been the person like, well, if it's meant to be, it's up to me. We can do it, right? And so in 2018, when Skip a Step went live, I started then asking myself, well, what is the meaning of life? What is it that I really want to do and have purpose to give back in the world, which any one of us can do? What is your meaning? What's your purpose? Some people might know it at a young age, and some people may spend their lifetime figuring that out. And that's okay. Whatever is true for you is true for you. And so by then I had already written different books. I written business books. I tell people I'm like Benjamin Button in my life. I actually worked with seniors volunteered as a teen. I volunteered with seniors when I was young. And then I entered the workforce. I moved to California from Texas when I was 30. Moved here with nothing. I wanted to be an entrepreneur, and I did. And that's a whole nother conversation. But I was able to then, talking about Benjamin Button, then I worked with adults, and then I wrote a book. The Skip a Step was for teen young minds. And then in 2018, I created the brand Unicorn Jazz series.
Oh, cute.
And what was to come. And I'm a visionary. I can kind of say what's ahead, filling in the action steps. And now I've written a book for babies. Look at that little puppet. It's called Baby, I Love You. I've created songs during the pandemic. Just spent the time being purposeful and useful, because the pandemic did take me back, like it did many. And I said, well, what can I do versus what can't I do?
My goodness, so many great things to unpack. So one of the first things that I picked up on was that, something I say a lot is that everything I know, whether it was through paid schooling or not, everything was through the graciousness of somebody else being willing to share their knowledge. Yeah. And what would I be if not willing to give that back in return? And I feel like you must resonate with that concept, because every single book you've written sounds like you're fueling this same thought.
Yeah, this book is one of my recent ones. My book, Help and Give Back, is about helping others. And I'm just showing up for the camera, so you got to watch this video too. Look at how beautiful the artwork, done by my cousin, Davey Villalobos, which his dream was to be a published illustrator, and now he is. So as a child, I didn't know that I was automatically helping others. When you volunteer and serve, you're helping. And what this book taught, as parents have told me, is you're teaching children and us, like, to take the focus off of us. The opposite of selfish is to help others, right? Mm-hmm. And so there's a saying that's not mine, like, if you want something done, give it to a busy person, or busy people don't have time to be depressed. Well, during the pandemic, which could have been I call it like being in sinking sand, I was stopped from going into classrooms and schools, which was already, like, I wrote Unicorn Jazz, and I wrote this book, Being Happy with Unicorn Jazz and Friends, and to focusing on the joy. and going into classrooms. You know, when you brand a company, you want to see that success, right? That makes you keep going, that yes, you're doing the right thing, you matter, let's keep going. Well, the pandemic, like many, for some people, it stopped them from their craft, their joy, their love. And I was like, what am I going to do now? I can't go into schools. I was able to go virtually, which I did. There's nothing like in person, as we know.
Right.
So I knew that the pandemic was eventually going to live. None of us knew how long it's going to be. And so I used it as a time to create more books, become a songwriter. I have 11 songs and counting.
Oh,
I have books. I have a show that's on Amazon TV called Unicorn Jazz Presents The Thing I Do, keeping in line with my brand. And one thing that I was already doing in creating this, the thing I do, was that I was discovering for kids and getting them excited about reading, about careers, and being interested in each other's perspectives, because we all need each other. We need different people to do different things in the world. Not everyone can be a teacher. Not everyone can be an author. Not everyone can be a podcast host. We need all these different people. So the thing I do is kind of, in a way, like career exploration when you're young, and to enjoy your hobbies and interests. And if you don't have them at any age, then go do it. Like, we live in a world where you can teach yourself how to play the guitar through YouTube. We live in a world where you can learn how to podcast and collaborate. We live in a world where if there's something that's been a passion of yours or interest as a young child, and if you haven't done it yet, well, you can do it. There's no excuses anymore. Yeah. And what I found is, if when you are focused in your joy and what you love to do and what your God-given gifts are, that you are going to naturally be happier, have joy in what you do, and you are going to exude that energy off to other people. So it's kind of like the book, The Secret. You're going to just radiate all this, attract people, and be able to build a community, or be part of a wonderful community.
Okay, so I have a really, you say you're like Benjamin Button with your career, kind of, right? So I have a two-pronged question, and I feel free to answer however you see fit. But, obviously I know you work with kids. You also mentioned that you've worked with seniors. And I think through the whole spectrum of age, we all struggle with finding joy and finding purpose, right? Right. But as young kids, it's almost forgiven. It's okay. You don't have to, right? And then in middle age, it's like, yes, like you should figure this out. And then when we're older, the expectation is really, you should have figured this out by now. And now you've retired, let's say, and you should be happy and know your purpose and be joyful in life. Without making, I guess, what? I'm always so transparent, and my poor mom is just going to have to know that I'm transparent always. And it's probably from her. But my mom is at that stage of age where she is almost retiring. She's really, like, September, she's hoping to make that jump. And she has been so vulnerable with me and kind of voiced how she's nervous about finding her joy and finding something that brings her fulfillment. So since you've worked with all these ages, whether young kids or older, how do your books and how do your teachings guide us to that answer?
And that's an excellent question. And I love that you said, like, you are good at being vulnerable, and that's me. I've had to be vulnerable and share your best of, your worst of, like, you're going to just hear it. I'm not going to just tell you everything's great and peachy when it's not. Right. And by the way, Brene Brown, one of the best watched TED Talks of all time on vulnerability. And I love that woman and all of her, what was to come from what she did with that. What I see in common with kids of all ages, and including adults, because just because you're adult doesn't mean you're not young at heart, doesn't mean you can't find that inner joy and playfulness. And I don't want to say I challenge people, because I don't walk around like I want to challenge them to find their inner younger self and their that it's almost to the point, like when I see you, Steph, if we were to have a conversation and develop that friendship over time, whether it's you or I know guys that are really, sports guys and really they're pretty tough. And I see the playful youthfulness in them, because we all have that. Just because you grow up and you adult, why do we have to stop playing and finding that in different ways? And so I say, I challenge you who is listening to, what brings you joy? And I've asked this question to people. I've had this one guy one time, he could not name what made him happy. Could you imagine that?
And I can. I really can.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm so stoked to talk to you, because I really can. I can truly empathize from myself. in different moments of my life of struggling with depression at some point in my life, and being able to come up with joy then, and then really being a support as best as I can to my mom right now, and really hear her vocalizing, I know that it should be easy for me to find my joy, but I can't. I'm not able, and I don't know how to guide her.
Well, yeah, and I see that with a lot of people. I see that with people in my family, that they get, you get stuck in the rut of the 9 to 5 working, and you're, as a mom, if you're a mom, you're serving your family, you're always put, and then you put yourself last. And we know, like, the word self-care, like, it's kind of like when you're on a plane and they say, if you have to put the oxygen on your child, put it on you first. That's self-care 101, right?
Yeah.
And so people sometimes can feel guilty for wanting to put themselves first. And I just say, don't feel guilty like your mom, like sometimes that could be one of the reasons, is they've always put everyone else first, and they don't know, they actually feel guilty of, self-care means I'm selfish. No, it doesn't mean you're selfish. Like, you get to enjoy, if you like taking walks on the beach, like I do present day, I'm not like, oh my God, I took a walk on the beach today, like that is terrible of me. No, that helped me to meditate, that helped me to be in my creative space, to thank God that, wow, I lived 5 blocks from the beach today, and I grew up really poor. This is a dream come true for me still. God's gifted me this amazing skill set and purpose that I didn't know I was going to have along the way. If I didn't discover this, God knew I wouldn't be alive today. I turned to God, and so many times, to what am I meant for? We all ask us these questions, and we all want to matter. We want to belong. I read recently that there's, on Google, one of the top searches is, do I matter? Do I belong in that content? And so when you realize, like, we are all going through struggle at any age, and being an adult is hard. Being a child, I always say ages 0 to 4, I want to be them again.
Yeah, I know, right? Well, I think, I like hearing that too. And I think that'll be a comfort for a lot of people, all ages, anyone listening. And I definitely, my mom is one of my biggest fans. Like, it's the most heartwarming thing when I look to any of my social or anything where you can look at stats and I just see mom, all these likes, and so I know she will listen. She will listen to this. And so having, anyone listening, especially her, recognize you're not alone. Know that you aren't the anomaly, and this isn't odd for you to feel that way.
You being her daughter, like, you want to see her happy. You want whatever her hobby, if it's cooking or if it's starting to paint. Like, imagine one day you go and you see her, and whatever that thing she likes to do, that thing I do. First of all, she should read The Thing I Do. It is for adults, and there's a song called What Is the Thing You Do? And at the end, all of a sudden, people, well, I do like this. I like painting. I like acting. I like singing. Well, under that umbrella, what could you do today that gets you sampling that, gets you into a hobby of that? And, sometimes people's hobbies turn into a career. There's no right or wrong. It's whatever's true for you that brings you that joy. And like I said earlier, if you are doing what brings you joy, what brings you love, help others. Helping others will always bring you joy.
I love that. So you're an author, right? We've talked a lot about your books. You also are an entrepreneur, Latina entrepreneur. So twofold question. One, how much is your heritage bled through your books? And two, what are you doing as an entrepreneur now? How are people working with you in addition to the books, or is that, fill me in on that.
Yeah. So, because I grew up really shy, I often say my only voice was on paper. We didn't have technology back then. And so writing to me is one of my favorite things, more than speaking. I speak because I've learned, like, that's how you get your brand out there, and you must do the thing you cannot do. So for me, writing books, for me, it's many things. I one day I'm going to pass on this earth. We all do. We all get an expiration date, and I often say, for a girl who felt like she didn't matter growing up, that I felt like I didn't belong. I was bullied. All these different things, and I did have people that believed in me. In my first book, Unicorn Jazz, the children's book, it was really the Unicorn Jazz series. It was a way for me to visit my childhood and skip steps for that girl, which represents other people. Unicorn Jazz moves to a new land in search of new friends. She feels like she doesn't belong, but she has a voice. That's her gift. She has a music note for a tale, which was important to me. And I did that with music because I always wished I was a singer. I'm not a good singer, and that's okay. It's a hobby of mine. And so Unicorn Jazz moves to a new land in search of new friends, feels like she doesn't belong until she meets a bird, a crow named Wolf the Crow. I did that on purpose. I would, I tell kids, imagine having a name that a dog should have. Like, would you want that? They're like, no, but Wolf is proud of his name because he's confident. And so he tells her, you should celebrate your voice. Go sing to all the animal friends and see what happens. So she sings the song her mom taught her. All of a sudden they're paying attention to her. See, she matters. So I tell kids and adults, like, who was your Wolf the Crow growing up? Or, hey, maybe you were Wolf the Crow to someone and you helped someone matter. And to this day, there's not a day that goes by that I'm not helping someone do their thing, discover the thing I do, impress upon them that enjoy, encourage them. Like, if you feel like you want to do it, you should go do it. I will support you. How can I support you? It has music and puppets, and I have created some of my characters into puppets.
Oh, wow. If you guys are listening only, you got to go check. One, I didn't mention this earlier, but the illustrations, from what I can see, what I love about them was they're so unique. It has, like, your artist has such a unique style.
I love his art. I love how he's intuitive. We have Traziki because I wanted the brand to be diverse, not just some people assume unicorn's girl, even though, a lot of boys love the Unicorn Jazz and what she represents, which is believing in others. So Traziki, he's a zebracorn, and I brought him out into the thing I do because my son, a teenager at the time, was like he didn't want anything to do with the unicorn, And then so one day I pick him up and I said, I have Traziki, and he likes to play basketball. He wears a number 3 like my son in sports. So he's a puppet in the show I have on Amazon TV now, streaming. And my older son, a nurse who's 31, he plays the voice of Traziki. Super funny. I'm just gonna send you a snippet, and I didn't know all this would happen. So you see how, like, I'm having fun. I'm doing what I love. I'm bringing all these creative. Sometimes people might think they're very zany ideas. During the pandemic, I had different people send in sock puppets and they were like, we don't know why we're doing this, Lisa. This is kind of weird, but we're going to do it. And I was like, just trust me on this. And did you have fun doing it? And I had teachers using them, but people of all ages. I've discovered that this is my purpose. All of that, like you said early on, it was meant to the wisdom that I can now collectively be able to inspire kids to grow up and have this, that teamwork is important, being kind is important. My book about kindness, because guess what? I tell them, my friend that in high school that was nice and good to me, and I was good to her. She grew up and became a principal. So when my children's book came out, and I needed a place to an audience, I went to the people I knew and they said, "Of course you can come in." All these steps were helping me to skip a step already in life.
I love that. Well, that's a perfect segue because I know that we talked about off air that for my listeners, we want to do a really special offer for the day that this episode, or maybe a couple days of this episode's release, right? We'll figure out the details, but share a little bit about what that's going to look like.
Yes. So you're listening to this for Steph's audience and, of course, mine. We have Skip a Step, Imparting Wisdom for Young Entrepreneur Minds, if that's you. It's a book about leadership. It's a book about what questions would you ask your younger self if you could, of some amazing CEOs and leaders that did some amazing things and are still doing some amazing work in their lifetime right now. It's on Kindle that you could get it free. I also have a workbook that goes with it. And I'd love for you to dive into it.
And it's going to be free, I think, for our audience, especially or exclusively, right? So typically it's for sale on Kindle, but we're going to kind of come up with some sort of promo code in the show notes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. I love it. I'm so geeked out because we've never had a guest do this. So I'm so excited. We'll figure out the details, guys. I'll make sure that we link Lisa's information in the show notes. I will make sure that when we release this episode, I guess if you're listening to this, you will see that I included whatever code you need to make sure that you can get Skip a Step by Lisa Caprelli for free on Kindle. I thank you again so much for coming on the show, Lisa.
I'm so grateful. Thank you, Steph. I enjoy following all the great work you're doing and the meaning and purpose that you're giving so many people. So thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. All right, guys, until next time. Steph here. Thank you so much for listening to the Passion on Purpose Leaders on Center Stage podcast. If you are a successful business owner and you lead your business with passion, we'd love to feature you on our show. We'd love to share with the world what makes your business great and how you have intentionally led passion throughout your business. Also, if you got any value or little tidbits from this episode, please take a minute to screenshot the episode and share it on your favorite social media platform. Be sure to tag us so we can properly thank you, and we love deepening our connection with our listeners. We are regularly putting out new episodes to feature leaders such as yourself who lead with passion on purpose. So be sure to subscribe to our show so you don't miss any future episodes. For more episodes, guest information, or details on the show, please visit getvim.com/passion on purpose. That's getvim.com/passion on purpose. Once again, I'm Steph. I am the owner and creative director at Vim, and thank you for listening to the show.